Eye Contact, a Mark Manning Mystery, Book 2. Author, Michael Kraft. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media, New York. Narrator, Eric Ost. Bistro ZaZas is mayhem. Trendy restaurants come and go. First blessed by the adulation of a jaded, fickle public, then doomed by the ennui that sends patrons packing for the next garage gone gourmet. Indeed, it seems the brighter the initial flame burns, the quicker it is snuffed. Judging by the chaos and noise here tonight, ZaZas won't make it till Christmas. At 10 minutes past 8, Manning and Neil squeeze through the mob at the door, having waited at the curb for an overworked valet to roar away with Manning's car. Jesus, says Neil, reacting to the confusion at the host podium. It'll be a miracle if Rox and Carl actually get a table. Would-be diners clump about as if they've been waiting for hours. Some bitch, most drink, all are loud. Manning elbows his way to the podium, fetching perturbed glances from others standing nearby. The host is model perfect, with sunken cheeks, wearing expensive casual clothes, all black. He looks up from his clipboard with a "May I help you" expression. Manning says, "We're meeting another party. I don't suppose Carl Crichton has arrived?" The man in black smiles, utterly unfazed by the commotion that surrounds him. "Oh, why, yes, Mr. Manning. They're here. Your table is waiting." He parts the crowd. "This way, please." The others' perturbed glances turn indignant as Manning and Neil whisk past, traversing the cavernous dining room beneath its raw I-beam rafters. Finally, arriving at a prime booth in the far corner, raised a couple of steps on a platform, like a throne from whence to survey the underlings. Carl rises, reaching his long arm to shake hands with the guys. Roxanne just lolls there against the tufted velvet cushion, asking, "See, I told you we'd get in." "I should never have doubted," says Manning. He leans over the table to kiss her, then sits next to Carl. Neil scoots into the booth next to Roxanne, telling her, "I've always said you were ballsy." She admonishes him with a rap on the hand, then smiles and kisses him. "I know a compliment when I hear one, and I'll take all I can get." Neil and Manning are seated at the ends of the booth, forming a semicircle with Roxanne and Carl in the middle. They look like characters in a play, with half the table open to the proscenium. In front of the table, downstage as it were, a bottle of champagne chills in a bucket on a silver stand. Though only the neck of the bottle can be seen, there's no mistaking the clear glass and gold foil. It's Roder Cristal, the best. A waiter steps forward and distributes 4 frosty champagne flutes, placing them on the white craft paper that covers the top of the tablecloth. The word ZaZas is rubber-stamped randomly on the paper in acid green. "It seems we've stumbled into a special occasion," Manning says. Carl laughs, raking his fingers through a shock of that distinctively white hair. "Well, Mark, it is special, and we wanted you guys to be the first to know." The waiter pops the cork. Neil eyes Roxanne's glass. "You're drinking tonight," she assures everyone. "Just a taste," signaling the waiter to pour only an inch for herself. We don't get to share this sort of news with our friends very often, and I want to take an active part in our toast to the future. With the champagne poured, they finger the stems of their glasses and raise them together. "So," says Manny, "to the future." They all taste the cristal, savoring the delicate bubbles on their tongues, before swallowing. There's a round of approving coos. Roxanne dabs her lips with a napkin. "Well, gentlemen, I suppose it would be cruel to keep you in suspense any longer. Our lives are about to change dramatically. You'll never guess how." "Oh, I think we've got an inkling," Neil says. Roxanne tweaks his cheek. "I don't think so." She sing-songs. Neil tweaks and sing-songs back. "Yes, we do." "No, seriously," says Roxanne, straight-faced. "You'll never guess. Carl, this is your big moment. Tell them." Carl Crichton pauses. He beams, then he blurts, "I've just been appointed Deputy Attorney General for the state of Illinois." "My God," says Manny. "Congratulations, Carl." He shakes Carl's hand. Roxanne is effusive. Isn't it marvelous? Neil doesn't get it. But Carl, you already got a great job. You're a senior partner in one of the city's top law firms. Carl and Manning chuckle. Roxanne explains. Neil, a DAJ appointment is about as good as it gets for a lawyer. It brings tremendous prestige to the firm. It brokers both power and influence, and it puts Carl in a position to contemplate a future run for significant political office. This could be the start of something very big. Noticing that Neil has reacted to this information with a disappointed scowl, she adds, You're supposed to be impressed. Sorry, Rox. Sorry, Carl. And that's wonderful news, really. It's just that, well, Mark and I were expecting something else. With innocent expressions, Roxanne and Carl ask in unison, Like what? Neil and Manning look at each other. Neither wants to say it. Neil finally tells them, Well, the M word. Roxanne and Carl appear momentarily stunned, then break into laughter. Heavens, said Roxanne. I guess I was sending the wrong signals. Carl adds, As a matter of fact, that topic has been discussed lately, but Roxanne and I need to concentrate on one midlife upheaval at a time. She pats Carl's hand. Fair enough, she tells the guys. You'll be the first to know if and when there's news on that front. And then she hails the waiter and orders mineral water for herself. Manning drinks more of his champagne at a lull in the conversation. He tells Carl, You certainly had Roxanne in a dither over your meeting in Chicago on Tuesday. She was under the impression you'd gotten involved with the Christian Family Crusade. Carl signals the waiter to pour more champagne. Roxanne told me about that, and I'm sorry, Mark. That is the result of my secretiveness. She dragged you up to Door County. No, God no. I've never had any connection with the CFC. Frankly, I detest all they stand for. Somehow. They learned of my impending appointment, and they wanted to grill me about my background. You know how politically active they become. My position is appointed, but the Attorney General is elected, and they could make things really tough for me in the next election. If I didn't pass inspection. I resent being put through that, of course, but those damned Hicks have become a political reality that's hard to ignore. Manning grins. How did you make out with them? Fine, I guess. I tried to wow them with my credentials while evading the stuff they'd find sticky. And they know I'm no Bible thumper, so I took care not to come across like a flaming libertine. And apparently they bought it. I got word from the Attorney General's office yesterday that the appointment is a done deal. It hits the news tomorrow. Neil has listened while idly stroking the stem of his glass. He looks up to ask Carl, When did you first get wind of the appointment? A few weeks ago, but it wasn't until last Friday that I learned it was looking like a sure thing. Great timing, I thought. I wanted to surprise Roxanne with the announcement at your party on Saturday. Then there was that union snafu at the Journal Corp, and Nathan Kane called an emergency meeting Saturday night. Since I had to miss the party, I decided to wait and pop the news to Roxanne while we were on our trip. Then I got called back by the Attorney General's office to attend the CFC's Inquisition, so Roxanne didn't hear my news till yesterday. Roxanne leans forward over her water glass. What still has us stumped, though, is how the CFC found out about the appointment so quickly. Carl learned about it Friday and didn't say boo to anyone at the office. Saturday was, well, Saturday. And the only people he talked to were the Journal bigwigs at that strike-breaking session. Sunday, we drove north. Monday, he was called back. It must have been a leak within the Attorney General's office, Carl suggests. I suppose, says Roxanne. Manning has pulled the Mont Blanc from his breast pocket and started scratching notes on the white paper that covers their tablecloth. Niels snaps his fingers. I knew there was something else, Carl. Rox said Pavo Zarnick was involved with your CFC meeting. What was that about? Carl laughs. I wish I knew. Yes, he was there, and he gave quite a performance, attempting to defend tolerance and diversity. The elders didn't buy it, to say the least. Neither did I, for that matter, since Roxanne had already clued me that Mark suspects Zarnick to be a fraud. What actually happened? Manning asked. The board grilled Zarnick first, and me. I got the impression that the point of the whole show was to impress upon me their ability to summon someone of Zarnick's liberty stature. Maybe the guy was just acting, but it seemed they generally made him squirm. Manning has ripped bigger and bigger pieces from the paper on the table, stuffing ragged notes, writing around the bright green ZaZas logo into the pockets of his jacket. Carl, he says tentatively, I hate to dampen this evening's celebration, but there's something I have to ask you about. Yes, Smart, he responds, surprised by Manning's change of tone, but sounding unconcerned by it. As you're probably aware from Roxanne, I've been assigned by the Journal to investigate last week's murder of our science editor, Clifford Dolan. Such a brutal tragedy, says Carl, looking directly into Manning's eyes. Any progress? Yes, actually, Manning answers. Roxanne leans forward with interest. Neil leans back, aware of what's coming. I made the startling discovery last Sunday that Cliff was keeping dozens of dirt files, extorting hush money from a number of victims. I'm sure it won't come as news to you, Carl. That Cliff kept a dossier on you. Roxanne's mouth drops in astonishment. Neil closes his eyes. Carl responds dryly. Indeed he did. His tone is forthright and unemotional. Clifford was a grad student at the University of Chicago, while I was still an undergrad. I hope you'll respect that I'm telling you this off the record, Mark. Manning nods, capping his pen. I admit that I was involved in a minor academic infraction at that time, but my involvement was tangential, and indeed, the facts of the incident were open to dispute. The school never took disciplinary action against me, and ultimately I graduated summa cum laude. That was 30 years ago, and I rarely gave the matter a second thought at the time, though it was reported in the school paper. Clifford was an editor, and he must have begun keeping his files way back then. Carl downs a mouthful of champagne. Swallowing hard, he continues. I don't know if his timing was sheer coincidence or if he had somehow gotten wind of the Attorney General business, but he phoned me out of the blue a few weeks ago and said we needed to talk. I couldn't imagine what he wanted. Carl shrugs. You can surely figure out the rest. He had the information and he wanted money. I put him off for a while, but I knew that if he ever went public with his file, my chances for the DAG appointment would be shot to hell. There would be zero tolerance for even a hint of scandal. Then at the height of my quandary, I learned that Clifford was dead. Murdered. Was I relieved? You betcha. Was I in any way involved? No. Roxanne takes his hands. My God, Carl, I wish you'd shared this with me. What a terrible dilemma to deal with alone. Carl wags his head, talking to both Roxanne and Manning. I've been racking my brain, and I think I can establish an alibi for that Monday night if I ever have to. But I must admit, I can't account for those crucial late evening hours. I was alone, working without witnesses. Whoa, Carl, says Manning, assuring him. No one is accusing you of anything. No one even knows that your file exists. Just us at the table. Relieved, Carl asks. Just out of curiosity, what happened to Clifford's files? I found them. I kept them. They're safe at home. Conferring with Nathan Kane, we agreed not to turn them over to the police. The less they're handled, the better. When all this is over, I'll destroy them. Thank you, Mark. Carl touches Manning's sleeve. Since coming to know you and Neil through Roxanne, I've learned to think of you as friends. Now I'm truly indebted to you. Nonsense, Manning tells him. At this point, you're merely the victim of suspicious circumstances, and those circumstances are known only to us. I hardly think you're the sort who'd put 3 bullets in a man's back. Let alone 4, Carl corrects him with a laugh. He adds, I believe that's what the news account said. The waiter returns with menus and pours the last of the Cristal from the bottle. Carl orders another. Before long, the foursome is involved with dinner, switching topics with the progression of courses, frequently interrupting the festivities with further toasts to Carl's success in public life. Everyone is pleasantly surprised to discover that ZaZas has not been overrated. In spite of the noise and the frenetic atmosphere, it's a top-notch meal. By the time dessert arrives, all 4 feel overfed and sated, cowed by the platefuls of rich, fanciful creations that bristle with chocolate twigs, wallowing in pools of exotic fruit purees. I'll never eat again, moans Roxanne. Neil tells her, You say that now, Rox, but come noon tomorrow, you'll be chowing down with the best of them. Carl snorts. I don't know what plans Miss Exner may have for tomorrow, but as for me, I will be lunching with the best of them. Mid-America Oil Chairman Brad McCracken and journal publisher Nathan Kane. Oh, really? Says Manning, forking a gob of something crusted with a crackly substance that looks like electrified shredded wheat. You seem to see quite a bit of Mr. Kane. Are you friendly? Carl swirls a spoon in a puddle of something purple. Interesting question. Nathan's a hard guy to get to know. Stiff, opinionated, strictly old school. But I have come to like him. He brings a unique perspective to any discussion. And of course, he's brilliant as well as powerful. I've done business with him for years, and with time, he's become something of a confidant, sort of a father figure. Same with Bradley McCracken, Manny asked. Lord, no. Brad is Nathan's friend. The two of them, along with the mayor and the archbishop, constitute a rarefied social circle. All their own. Way too rich for this humble lawyer's blood. Oh, please, Carl. Roxanne licks a smear of chocolate from a thumb. It's true, he insists. With that kind of wealth commanding their individual empires, they're in a class uniquely theirs. I'm honored to rub elbows with them. It's not every day I'm invited to lunch in a private dining room at the Central States Club. I atop the Mid-America building. Hey, says Manny, I'll be up there myself tomorrow. Not as a lunch guest at noon, but to research a story at 5:30. The mayor's office got me clearance to inspect a laser project up on the tower platform. Neil explains to Carl and Roxanne. It's part of a surprise finale to Saturday night's human rights rally at the stadium. There was talk of it in the news today. I heard about that, says Roxanne. Sounds exciting. Carl and I can't wait. The evening has grown late. It's after 11, and all four will have a busy Friday. They agree to skip coffee, and after some initial check tugging, Carl prevails as host. A few minutes later, they're on the street exchanging goodbyes. Manning gives the valet his stub for the car, while Roxanne and Carl get into a cab. They wave and yahoo through an open window as the cab pulls away from the curb, disappearing into traffic. Neil turns to Manning. Do you suppose they're sleeping together? Manning shrugs. They're adults. I know, but I do feel sort of protective of Rox, even though she'd scoff at the ideal. We've known each other so long. I mean, I used to live at her place whenever I was in the city. I still have her key somewhere. She's been a good friend to both of us, says Manny. And I like Carl, too, in spite of this stickiness about Cliff Nolan. All said, it's been a nice night out. A perfectly good time. Then from around the corner appears a sight that brings their perfect evening to an abrupt end. The valet pulls Manning's big Bavarian V8 to the curb. There's a deep scrape running the entire length of his passenger side. The sheet metal is dented badly. The mirror is missing, and the door doesn't quite close. Manning gaps at it, dumbstruck. The valet hops out and holds the driver's door open for Manning as though nothing had happened. Upon questioning, he mumbles something about a tight squeeze, a cement guardrail, and insurance form. Manning just wants to go home. He needs to pop a Xanax, crawl into bed, and put this behind him. He can't possibly deal with it now. In a daze, he pulls the car away from the curb and manages to wing the back of the car parked in front of him, smashing a headlight and crimping his hood. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.